Hey there, Shari here. Welcome back to Everyone's Talking Money. I've got my amazing co host Shannah Game with me today, and we're diving headfirst into a conversation the financial industry has been dodging for way too long. Let me ask you, have you ever sat across from a financial advisor and felt completely talked over? Like you're the one with the money and the goals, but somehow you're still being handed a bunch of jargon, sports metaphors, and a don't you worry your pretty little head attitude. Yeah, same. And we're not the only ones. Women have always been a financial force, but the industry was built by men for men, and let's be real, it still hasn't caught up. Here's the reality check. By 2030, women are expected to control over $30 trillion in wealth. That's trillion with a T. But despite this massive shift, most financial advisors still aren't getting it. In fact, a global study from EY found that 67% of female investors feel misunderstood by their wealth managers. Translation: the industry is dropping the ball. I apologize for the sports metaphor, and women are paying the price. So today, we are having a real, unfiltered conversation about what needs to change. And there's no better person to lead us through this than our guest, Cary Carbonaro. Cary is an award winning certified financial planner with over 25 years of experience and one of the most powerful voices out there when it comes to advocating for women and wealth. She's the managing wealth advisor and women and wealth ambassador at Ashton Thomas, the only female member of the NASDAQ Advisor Council, and the author of the upcoming book, Women and Wealth, a playbook to empower clients and unlock their fortune. Cary has built and led multi-million dollar financial planning practices, served as VP at Goldman Sachs, and created women leadership divisions from the ground up at some of the biggest names in finance. She's a behavioral finance expert, a fierce advocate for equity and transparency, and a woman on the mission to make sure future generations don't face the same outdated nonsense we've had to. This episode is part wake up call, part rally cry, and part masterclass in how the future of finance must evolve if it wants to keep up with women's growing financial power. Welcome to Everyone's Talking Money.
Well, Carrie, I want to start this conversation off with some truth. I feel like most women, like we're told to shrink, right? We're told to shrink our lives, to save money, to be less than we really feel like we want to show up being. And I love this because you say that the real power is in building wealth. And I'm really curious, like, what does that look like for women? Because we hear this all the time. We hear this, men say this, right? They're out there building wealth. And I think a lot of women feel like, what is this? Because I don't necessarily understand what it is. And I don't understand how to get there.
Right. So think about, I always say money equals power and power equals money and vice versa, right? And women need more of both. Women need money and power. And at least when women get power, it gives them control over their destiny and their choices, and everything in their lives actually become a little bit easier because they have that wealth. So women can build wealth the same way that men can build wealth, slow and steady over time. There's no get rich quick. There's only get rich slow. And women are great planners. I mean, women are excellent planners. Think about how good women are at planning vacations, planning weddings, planning everything, but not necessarily thinking about planning their retirement. It's just not something that is top of mind with women. Although I would love it to be, it's just not yet. And what's so interesting is when you talk about wealth, right? And building wealth for women. Women, because of, I know we're going to talk about this later, but, being out of the workforce and caregiving and all the other things and twists and turns that women have in their lives, they lose because of the pay wage gap time out of the workforce, their wealth gap is $1 million over their life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it is huge. And so women need to be even more planning for their future because of the wealth gap, because of the 82 cents on the dollar, because of being out caregiving, and because of longevity of living longer. So women need more money, not less money than men.
How do we, take that $1 million stat you just rattled off, and how do we not let that, basically like catch us in fight or flight? Like just this, emotional response of like, I'm never going to get there. So why even try? How do we trick our brains to get out of that place?
Well, again, we know as financial planners or trained financial planners, it's just a math problem, really, right? It's not, and I know obviously you said, emotions get involved and women feel like it's overwhelming. And really, that is the perfect reason to meet with a CFP for exactly that reason, because they're going to lay it out for you and give you the roadmap to how you get to where you need to be. So it's a simple math problem to me.
How often, Carrie, do you find that the roadmap leads to confidence or leads to power? Just having the roadmap already makes a woman feel like they're more powerful than when they started.
Honestly, all the time, almost immediately. As soon as a woman, like I see it with a light bulb going off in the brain, and I can literally see where her eyes light up, and she says, I get it, I understand it, I see it, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can imagine it, I can visualize it, and there it is. There's your roadmap, there's your confidence. And also having somebody in their corner as their, advocate also really helps a lot too, because I'm 100% rooting for them. I'm on their team. I'm their, advisor, coach, advocate, wanting them to achieve their financial freedom and wealth. And that's my goal is their goal. So it's nice to have somebody else in your corner helping you get there too.
Yeah, when you say roadmap, like break it down for us. What exactly are you talking about? Like what is in our roadmap? What do we need? What are these pieces to building this wealth puzzle?
Wealth. Sure. It's super simple. It starts with basic building blocks of knowing your numbers, knowing what's coming in, what's going out every month, which is your budget, and then knowing your net worth numbers, which is, what you own minus what you owe is your net worth, and growing that year over year and meeting after meeting and time after time, and then putting into place all the great maybe set it and forget it, maybe not set it and forget it type of things where you're automatically saving, you're automatically investing, you're automatically paying off debt, or hopefully you're not in debt in the first place because you're spending less than you make. And so it's a combination of doing all the right things with money consistently over time. And that's what's going to build the great wealth. And also, of course, it's not necessarily all about picking the right investments, but also, not putting all your eggs in one basket and putting, I just got off the call with a client who is a new client. And I was explaining to her that, there's never been a 10-year period of history where anybody's lost money in the market over time. And then I said, I hear a lot of the urban myths of such and such friend, uncle, whatever, neighbor lost all their money in the stock market. And I always challenge them and I say, impossible. And I say, the only reason that that could happen is if they put it all in a single stock that went bankrupt, or they put it all in a Ponzi scheme, none of which is happening on my watch. So it's never going to happen.
Okay, Carrie, but I want to I want to be the listener right now because as we're recording this, it's a couple weeks before your book is coming out. And if anyone's paying attention to their 401k or the news or anything, they know that the markets are, it's doom and gloom out there right now. And I think that if, women listening are already feeling nervous about money to start with, right? How in the world do we approach this time right now where, we just feel so out of control? And also, we have no idea what the like quote unquote right decision is to do with our money.
Right. Well, so many good points there. I'm going to pack this one at a time. So I think the first thing is there are things that we can control and there's things that we can't control, right? We can control our reactions and we can control what we do, but we can't control the market. We can't control the president. We can't control politics. We can't control taxes. We can't control the world that's happening around us. So don't even try, because all that is going to be a lesson in frustration and futility. So we can control what we can control. So I always say, and I like to use this because I know women love sales. And I love sales. I mean, I'm a huge sale and deals are my favorite words. And so the market is on sale right now. So to me, I look at it's a fantastic time to invest for the long term. And are you going to get in at the low? Probably not, because nobody can call a low. And if they're telling you they can call a low, don't believe them, because it's not true. No, it's not possible. But if you get in now, I went in last week. I'm going in today. Just a little bit at a time, some extra money that I've had that hasn't been invested, because I was saving for a house in New York. And then I decided not to buy that third house in New York. And I decided no. And so now I have extra money that is going to go in while the market's on sale. So I think it's a fantastic time. And it's interesting because all my clients who have great wealth, great wealth, I consider great wealth, anything over $10 million of net worth is great wealth. And so all my clients with $10 million and up are putting money in like crazy. So that should tell you something.
Well,
I don't know if I answered all that. I don't know if I answered all those questions.
You did. And you and I have known each other for quite some time, and
Yes.
you have been in the financial industry for decades and really been this voice for women and just this strong advocate that women can do this, that women can build wealth. But I feel like there's still these kind of unwritten narratives in the financial industry around women. I think all three of us could share so many stories of women, saying something like, well, I just didn't do anything that I was supposed to do because I couldn't find a woman or somebody to tell it to me in my language, or that I felt comfortable with, or I felt judged or shamed about my money. And so I just, kind of froze and panicked and didn't do anything for years. And I feel like the financial industry has just so much to learn still about women and how to approach us. I would just love for you to share a little bit, like, from your expertise, like what does the financial industry get wrong about us that they need to change and help us along in this process more.
Oh my gosh, this is such a loaded question, and it's literally the reason that I wrote my book, to answer this question. So I answered it in 400 pages, but now I'll answer it much shorter. But there's so many things. It's like it's a plethora of things that the industry is getting wrong and not doing right. And we know that for a fact because it's an industry that was created by men for men, and women have always been an afterthought, and women have not been even strong consumers of financial service advice, because the industry is so male and so male dominated, with language, with the way, with marketing, with how they're not even spoken to, how they're not even acknowledged, how the industry is transactional versus relational. The language is so incredibly male about beating the S&P 500, which, just does not resonate with women. It's just, the sports analogies and just so much of the jargon to make women feel unclear and don't worry your pretty little head about it. I gotcha. I'll take care of this for you. I had a friend of mine who posted something for International Women's Day, and she had a picture of herself and about 10 women, all from San Francisco area, and all their experiences with their male advisors. And it was a horror show. Wow. And it was like, he doesn't get me. He doesn't listen to me. He loses me money. He's mediocre or subpar at best. Why won't they ever take a meeting with me without my spouse? Why won't they ever answer my questions? Why do they not look at me during the meeting? I mean, it's literally, I mean, I got goosebumps like when I was reading this, because I'm like, this is why I wrote the book, for exactly this reason. And what's crazy is the men don't really think that they're doing anything wrong. Like they literally don't know what they don't know. And I'm not even blaming them. Like they just don't know what they don't know, because there's so much unconscious and implicit bias out there, and it's hurting women constantly. And again, men don't know what they don't know. I have a quiz in my book, which is actually from Kathleen Kingsbury, and it's how female friendly is your practice. And it's a 20 question quiz, and it uncovers a bunch of blind spots that, again, you don't know what you don't know. So guys, just take the quiz and see where you are and see what it looks like. And then another thing is, I also have the implicit bias test from Harvard, also in the book, where you can go on and see what is your blind spots that you don't know that you have. And so there's just so many things. And then also women, women want to know that they're going to be okay, that they're not going to outlive their money. They don't care about Sharpe ratios. They don't care about jargon. They don't care about what you want to tell them. They care about, how does this relate to me? How about me as a person, me as an individual, me as a human being? That's what the advice needs to be centered around them. you know um Communication, language, behavioral finance, very female friendly. Women like to talk about the behavioral finance aspect. And if you're not doing that, that's also an entire hole in your practice if you're not using behavioral finance tools for women. So I just believe the holistic planning, tying women's values to their portfolio, it's about them as human beings, not as AUM. There's just, I mean, the answer, I just could keep talking about this for the whole rest of the time. And also education is very core too. Women want to be educated, but not the way you want to educate them, the way they want to be educated.
It's so true. I mean, men and women really speak a different language when it comes to money and finances. And when you're in a meeting and a male financial advisor, just not even on purpose, just gravitates more towards the male because they speak the same language. So when the male financial advisor says something that makes perfect sense to him, the husband's head nods because, yeah, I totally understood what you just said. Where the wife is looking lost, going, that doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't apply, or is that going to achieve our goals? So it's almost like you have to speak two different languages. Your portfolio returned 17% this year, and that means you can retire at 65 like you planned. It's speaking two different languages in the same sentence.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. One of the things I did for female friendly language and to change the analogies is I actually wrote a piece that pretty much went very viral at the time. And I compared shoes to asset classes. And women went crazy because I had people tell me I never understood what asset classes were until I read this article. And then they were like, I have too many pumps. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So like now you get it too. So it's just so interesting because it's just, and it's funny, the guys who read the article told me I learned about shoes. So
Okay, wait. Go back and tell us more about this article. Like, tell us about this correlation for those who are like, okay, what is she talking about?
Sure. So I just wanted to explain, like, why would you have all different types of asset classes and what are they? And why would you have different types of shoes and what are they for? So I compared, like, for example, sneakers, which everybody owns a pair of sneakers because you need to, because it's, what you usually use and it's easy to get around. And so that is equivalent of cash, which is what you need to pay your bills. And then I did Gucci loafers, and those were for muni bonds because those are for wealthier people that, make in a high tax bracket, that it makes sense for them to own muni bonds because their taxable equivalent yield is higher because they make so much money. And then I did, I think, stilettos or were emerging markets. So high risk, high reward. And like, so each asset class I picked. Birkenstocks were ESG. So for people who want to put their values where their money is, Birkenstocks are equivalent to that. And I thought that was a perfect mix because it's like the same people.
That's so much fun. Like, what a creative way to explain something that is, rather complicated sounding, but to put it in terms that everybody, or at least women, can really understand. So, like, as you share all of this about the industry and needing to kind of change the language, do you see things changing? Like, are we actually making strides, or are we
Oh,
still stuck in the same place?
so I think we are making strides, but very slowly, like incredibly slow. Even the CFP board, who's put a lot of money and time into this, has increased the number of CFP professionals, over time, over the last decade. So they're making some strides. However, we're still too low, percentage wise. I think we're still at the same percentage of, under 24%, which is, dismal because we're what, 51, 52% of the population. So we definitely don't mirror the population. The other thing is also, I think that we've been so slow because there's not been a force or need or pressure to change. So that's the biggest reason that it hasn't changed yet. However, my book, which is based on all the stats related to the great wealth transfer of women, by 2030, women will control 2/3 of the nation's wealth, which is 30 trillion with a T. And then it goes, if you go out even further, if you go out past 2030 to 2048, it's 54 trillion that women are going to control. So guess what? Women are the future clients of wealth management. If they haven't been in the past, they are going to be in the future, which means, guess what? If you want them, you have to change. And so that's why I wrote the book.
I love it. There's like a big exclamation mark on the end of that. And if anyone's listening right now and they can't see how big Cary's smile is, like she loves this, and I, because I know her personally, I know this is such a passion.
This.
All right, Cary, it's time for our Money Honestly segment. So, we're going to ask you to kind of drop the filter and get real with us about money, a little bit like behind the scenes of your finances. So, question number one, tell me, what is something you refuse to spend money on, even if everyone else is obsessed with it?
Oh, what do I refuse to spend money on? That is a really hard question because I'm finally at the stage of my life where I actually am spending money. So let's see, what do I refuse to spend money on? I would say I refuse to spend money on an overpriced house.
I like that
And
answer.
which is why right now, between the housing prices doubling or tripling, and crazy high interest rates, the market is out of control for housing. So, I mean, obviously I own my home and I'm already in my homes, but if I was to buy another one, I would not buy one right now.
Cary, what is a purchase that felt totally irresponsible, but you have zero regrets about it?
So for me, I bought my first six-figure car. It's a Mercedes SUV GLC 53 AMG version. And I just got it. And I had never cared about cars. Like, it was just not a thing for me. I was like, I just get whatever the most, don't care about the bells and whistles, don't care about this, don't care about that, don't care. And I would just drive it till, it almost fell apart. And I just decided recently that I tried this car and I said, you know what? This is a fantastic car. And then I said, why did I never have AMG? And then I said, oh, because I didn't want to pay for it. And now I'm like, well, why wouldn't I pay for it? It's fantastic and I can afford it and I love this new car. So that was really out of character for me, but I'm happy about it.
And you got the new car smell, even better.
Yes. Yes.
All right, tell me, what is a one money belief maybe you had from childhood that you've just completely outgrown, that no longer fits you?
Let's see. What belief from childhood that I have outgrown? Hmm. It's funny. I feel like most of my beliefs from childhood are still with me. Is that terrible? Like,
No.
I agree.
okay, because I have definitely not outgrown any of my childhood beliefs, which are, you spend less than you make, you always put away as much as possible, you don't ever give away free money, you don't overpay for things, you only cry once when you buy quality. Like all of those still remain. So I haven't changed my view of the world. And also you have to work hard to, like, working hard is also the key to success. That was, I don't know if I don't know. Some people outgrow that one, but I'm good. I'm good with all of mine still.
That's fantastic. Finish this sentence for me. If you looked at my bank statement right now, you'd probably say,
I have too much money in cash.
I like that. Short, sweet, and to the point.
So why do you have all that money in your checking account? That's what somebody would say. That's what I would say to my client. Why do you have all that money in your checking account? What's wrong with you?
And you talk about this great wealth transfer that's going to happen with women. How do we as women, you said the word earlier, power, and I think that's a word that can scare a lot of women, and that's a word that also for another portion of women feels like super empowering. How
Right.
do we embrace this transfer? Like, how do we take hold of this so that we don't lose it, right? Like that we can really build this generational wealth, whatever that looks like for us. How do we harness this transfer that's going to happen?
So what's so interesting is women have more control already than they actually think that they do, right? Because women control spending decisions in the household. A lot of CFOs of the family, even if they're not the primary breadwinner, they're usually the controller of the money in the households. So women already have all this incredible power that they just don't even know that they have. And then also women have this great propensity for charity and philanthropy, way more than men. So women are also, not only are they affecting change within their worlds and their households and their communities, they can also affect change with their giving and their philanthropy, right? So once this wealth transfer starts to happen, I just think a lot of things are going to change in this world because of the domino effect of all this money in the hands of women and all this power in the hands of women because of the money. So how are we going to harness it? We're going to hopefully hold on to it we're going to change the landscape of what this country looks like, and actually probably the world. All of this is coming. It's super exciting.
What can we do? I mean, we're three women here that our lives are dedicated to money and finance and educating others and empowering women when it comes to their money. But I know when I graduated with a finance degree. I looked around, I didn't have a single friend in any of my classes. And I didn't even realize that until my graduation day. Cause I'm like, who am I going to sit with? And I'm like, wait, I have no one. All of my friends were marketing, communications, nursing majors that were a lot sexier and exciting than finance,
Yeah.
right? So, one, how can we attract more women to the field? And then also, how can we bring more women to the table that just are want to talk about money?
So I'm going to take the second part first, and then
Yeah.
the first part second.
Mhm.
So what's interesting is, how do we bring more people interested in money, women more interested in money? So I recently did a breakfast meeting at a friend's house. And this was organized by a woman who is a very CEO of a company, super high wage earner in her 40s. And what she decided to do was bring me in to talk to all of her friends who were also super high achievers, New York City, HBICs, like incredible, strong women who are already killing it in their day jobs, right? In their lives. However, they don't know what they don't know about money, and they don't know who to trust. They don't know who to ask. It's information overload. There's so much information out there, but it doesn't necessarily maybe relate to you or your situation personally, right? And also, even if you're going to hire a financial planner, we don't know who to trust. We don't know where to go. We don't like, so I sat down with them. I had an hour and a half conversation where we sat down and they went over every question under the sun, like even questions you would be surprised that they did not know. Like they literally said, what's the difference between a Roth and a regular IRA? Like I thought that they would have known that, like, or what's a 529? Like I thought that they would have known that, and so it was just such the most interesting. I said, I wish there was a camera there, although of course they wouldn't have been as forthcoming with their questions if there was, but it just would have been amazing. It was the most amazing experience for me because after I left, I felt so incredibly vindicated that I touched all of their lives and I answered all of their questions. And I felt like I really made a difference. But the crazy thing is that how is this happening to women who are, making 6 or 7 figures, who don't know what they don't know and they don't know where to go? So again, it's our industry failing, and we have to get our voices amplified so that we can get out there to reach all these women. So that's the second question first. The first question second is, how do we reach women to get them interested in this profession? And let me tell you, that is a multi-billion-dollar question to me because I definitely do not have the answers. I have some ideas, but I don't have the answers. And so, first of all, it's an incredibly lucrative profession, and it's not all about numbers. It's about people. So that part, women are fantastic. Women are great with building trust. Women are great with empathy. Women are just great natural listeners and planners and just so good at all that stuff. But what gets intimidating to them is the math part. And so women thinking, oh, I can't do math, so I can't do this job. Well, first of all, that's not the case. I mean, yes, you do have to know how to do math, but you can use a calculator and you can use software and programs and things like that. So you don't have to necessarily be able to calculate it in your head. Although we used to have to back in the day, but now you don't have to do that anymore. So that's first thing. Second thing is, I did something with the CFP board, which was one of the most impactful things that I did in my career. And we spent a couple of days at the Girl Scout National Convention with a CFP board booth where we had a game of how to retire and what is a CFP. And we had like future CFP selfie station sticks and pictures and tattoos and all this other great stuff. And so I literally got to talk to probably thousands of girls there over the, age 5 to 18. None of them knew what a CFP was. Not one. None of them. They knew what an attorney was. They knew what a doctor was. They knew what a CPA was, or at least a tax person. Nobody knew what a CFP was. So we planted thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds into the heads of little girls to say, this is a potential career for me.
I love that.
So
So incredibly impactful. I think it's funny because when I was dating my husband and they started having those CFP commercials on TV, and I believe a commercial came on that was something about a CPA, and he's like, "Oh, look, they're talking about you." I'm like, "No, no, no, it's not me. I don't do taxes." I'm like, "I'm a CFP." And it's just so interesting how, you know, it's like it's taken so many years for people to like comprehend what that is. And I think especially I would love to get your take on this, Cary, because I know we're all three like super probably have a lot of opinions about this, but in this world of social media and even other podcasts and blogs where there are, quote unquote money experts who don't have the expertise, right? They have not done this for a living. They haven't helped real life people or had at least that, kind of ethical compass that we all have in terms of when we're giving out advice and how we do this. And so I feel like this concept of being a money expert has been almost watered down a lot more in younger generations, because it's like, well, I can just watch a TikTok about somebody giving advice, and like, I don't need a money expert to tell me this. But obviously this is something I could talk about for hours and hours, but I would love, your thoughts on this, like particularly when you're writing this book and you're thinking about kind of coming out
Right.
in this world that is the way it is. How do the people listening, how do they decipher this concept of money expert, and who can help them going forward?
So such a good question. And I talked about this recently on a stage in New York about the fin influencers. And I put that in quotes, right? Because just because you're a fin influencer, which by the way, I don't even know who came up with that ridiculous term or how you become one. But you don't have to have any credentials. I mean, zero. I mean, nothing. I mean, less than nothing. I mean, one girl, which is funny because she's calling herself the money queen. And that was my old nickname for my first book. And she is somebody who's in her 20s, who, was a waitress. And now she's supposedly telling everybody she's worth, $10 billion or whatever. Or I don't know. I'm making it up. I have no idea. Like, it's just some ridiculous number. And I'm like, but she doesn't tell how she got there. And she has no experience and no job, and other than being a fin influencer. And I'm like, I don't even understand why anybody would listen to this human being. And I'm not being, I'm not, I don't want to put another woman down. There's experience and credentials. And when these fin influencers have none of the above. So I always caution people where you're getting your advice from. And, and just because somebody's standing in front of a Ferrari doesn't mean that they own the Ferrari, and doesn't mean that they are not leveraged up to the hilt on the Ferrari or in negative equity on the Ferrari. Like, I can't even believe that our culture it's like rewarding bad behavior. It's like rewarding, get rich quick. And our industry is the complete opposite of that. So what we do is not sexy. It's not sexy, and it's never going to be, because guess what? It's get rich slow, not get rich quick. So I am super anti anything that's get rich quick, and anything that is all flash in the pan and with no numbers behind it. And you don't really know anything. And what's crazy is, even in our industry, like, I don't talk about my net worth. Like, that is like taboo. Like, I would never tell anybody. I mean, I would tell my clients if they asked me how much my net worth was, but I'm not putting it out on social media. And these, supposed people are. But again, we don't think it's real. I don't think it's real. I mean, how do you get from 0 to 10 million with no job?
Yeah, let me know the
Right?
secret. Let me know the secret. Well, okay, other than telling everyone who's listening they need to go out and buy your book, Women in Wealth, because it's a prerequisite for sure. Help us out here as we wrap up. Like, let's say I'm listening to this conversation. I'm like, okay, Cary, like, I want to build wealth, but I've made too many mistakes, and I just feel like that pattern's going to continue to happen. Or maybe I didn't grow up seeing what wealth looked like. So how in the world am I ever going to get there? What do you want us to remember as we walk away from this conversation?
So remember, everybody can build wealth, no matter who you are, no matter how much you make, no matter your age. If you're breathing and you're living, you can still turn the ship around and invest in yourself somehow, right? So what I always like to say is, if you're making mistakes, why are you making mistakes? Is it because, like what you said earlier, that you're just, you made the mistakes because you had too much information and you couldn't make the decision, so you didn't do anything, like analysis paralysis? Or is it because you just are into retail therapy and therefore then you're overspending and then you're always on a debt hamster wheel? Like, so you got to find out the reason why you're making the mistakes you are. And sometimes, believe it or not, I believe a therapist could help you with that. But also it's a shifting mindset. And so I always my favorite book in the world is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Super old, hundreds of years old, but the mindset is still the same. It's about adopting mindset principles that will work for you, and power of attraction and the law of attraction and all that great stuff. But anybody can do this. I don't believe for 1 second that somebody can't do this, that no matter who you are, no matter how much you make. I mean, I've seen people who make 30,000 a year become multimillionaires. So it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep, it's about what you spend, and it's about how you do what you do. And all the principles of, if you're using the correct principles of money management.
Here's what I hope you take away from this conversation. Women aren't waiting on the sidelines anymore. We're already making the decisions, managing the money, and changing the game. But the financial industry, it's still speaking a language that doesn't reflect who we are, what we value, or how we want to build wealth. So if you're in the industry, this is your call to evolve. And if you're a woman listening, this is your reminder that you don't need to have all the answers to take control of your financial future. You just need the right people, the right conversations, and advice that actually meets you where you are. And that's exactly why you need to check out Cary's new book, Women and Wealth. It's out late this month. It's a powerful playbook for both clients and advisors, filled with the insights, tools, and mindset shifts the industry desperately needs to make if it wants to support the next generation of female wealth builders. Because reminder, by 2030, women will control 2/3 of the nation's wealth, and we're just getting started. As always, thank you for spending your time with us today. Don't forget to share this episode with the women in your life who are ready to own their power and the advisors who need to hear their message loud and clear. We'll catch you next time on Everyone's Talking Money.